You didn't. You said the court process should play out the way it is. My opinion on the amount of time should be served for a crime is not just wrong because you like courts.
No, I get that.
You need to explain
I'm saying
why the time frame I'm asserting should be longer than 3 years.
Yo, Temple just went in on this kid about all the wrongful incarcerations of January 6th and many other things. It is wild out here. Twitter X is just feeding us all the goodies. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to Resist the Mainstream, to ensure to YouTube that you are enjoying our videos, so then that way they will continually show up in your feed and then to push it out to more people. I'm Titus. Let's get into this video.
The month that they should get, I do respect the fact that they were prosecuted in a court of law, and I don't think Trump, to send a message to his base that what happened on January 6th was good, which is why he would do such a pardon, should be pardoning folks who were violent. Or
I think 3 years is long enough.
Yeah, and that's a wrong stance, but okay.
How is it wrong? No, you didn't. You said the court process should play out the way it is. My opinion on the amount of time should be served for a crime is not just wrong because you like courts.
No, I get that.
You need to explain
I'm saying
why the time frame I'm asserting should be longer than 3 years.
No, I'm saying the default, you have to have overwhelming, compelling evidence that someone has been wronged to justify a president stepping in and saying, I'm subverting the justice system outcome. Do you agree with that premise?
No.
That's immoral.
So you're making a fascist argument.
A fascist argument?
You are making the fascist argument that the hierarchical structure of government is just and should be upheld regardless.
Why? Okay, I'm not going to ask that. This is
right. And so the system we have is
I'm just not loving, and this is a way of celebrating violence, that Trump is celebrating those as far as a pardon, and in his rhetoric and in his national anthem thingy, people who attacked the Capitol. Why did they attack it? Because they believed lies about the election.
There's a variety of reasons why people were violent on January 6th. Largely that they believe the election was stolen.
You could just be like, hey, that's bad. You don't have to keep going.
I've called for their arrest and prosecution. Like, this is not a shock to my audience.
My reporting is responsible for the arrest of a couple of January 6th
My point is that if you've got somebody on a misdemeanor charge who's been held without trial, a pardon makes perfect sense. Unless you're a fascist.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of people that were there that acted out. They should be in jail. People that are attacking police officers, all that stuff. Yeah, incarcerate them all you want. There's people there that showed up that walked in the building. I know a woman, her husband's mother, I had to interview them. I communicated with him how he just walked in. They escorted him in. He didn't do anything. And now he's been in jail ever since. I don't believe he's been taken out yet. And this was like 2 years ago when I talked to this person, this family. That's not okay. The people that didn't actually do anything, they got arrested after they went home after that day and thought that, oh, things kind of got out of hand there. Ooh, I'm glad I wasn't acting crazy, and they're in jail. Like, that's not okay. They should not still be in jail, and they should be pardoned for sure. And they tried to make an example out of a lot of people that were there that they didn't need to make an example out of. They could have used people that were actually being crazy. And so I don't agree with this guy.
And the system is just. So it's like Benjamin Franklin, who said it is better that 100 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer. You've taken the Otto von Bismarck approach of it is better that 10 innocent people suffer than one guilty person escape.
No.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you have.
No,
right?
I haven't.
No, stop. You don't know anything about these January 6 cases. You don't know why these people are in jail. You don't know that a man is in Brooklyn right now for 3 years without charge or trial. And when Donald Trump says these people have been held for too long, you say, no, Trump is wrong. Keep them locked up. That's fucking fascist. Dude, you've been sitting here with no knowledge of the specifics of some of these cases. There is a man in Brooklyn right now. I'm going to say it again. No charges whatsoever brought. He's been in jail for 3 fucking years. For you to sit there and say it is good that he remains locked up is fascism. That is saying the hierarchical system of the courts and the government is just, and the process is all that matters. And I am saying perhaps 3 years is enough. Because I actually have moral logic and an understanding of these cases. Hence, my position on January 6th has always been the people who have attacked police must go to prison. But 3 years is a fucking long time for assault on an officer. We have seen people on the far left, notably when they were firebombing shit all across Minnesota, 33 people murdered. And how many criminal charges do we get for this? When they firebombed a police station and forced the police to evacuate. On May 29th, 2020, when thousands of far leftists firebombed the White House grounds and set fire to St. John's Church and injured 100 police officers, how many fucking people went to prison for 3 years? How many of them who never showed up on that day are in prison for 20 years? Enrique Tarrio wasn't even in D.C. on January 6th. And you are saying that man who his only crime was, quote, don't leave. That's his only crime. You think he should be in prison for 20 years because you're a fascist. You don't care what the facts are. You don't care if this is unjust. You only care that the machine state has decreed you are not to be locked up. And this is the problem I have with the left. They don't know the facts. They don't care about the facts. They view morality as a blanket government stroke of the pen. And every person, regardless of their crime, should be in prison for decades. I reject it outright. The people who fought cops should go to prison. They did. It's been 3 years. But when you've got people who are on misdemeanor charges for having walked into a building at 4 p.m. after the riot, and I know some of these people, they walked into a building for 2 minutes and walked out, and they got 18 months for that. I don't see you defending the innocent people who walked onto a public grass at a public building after a riot had been completed. You don't know. You don't care. You've taken a tribal position and people are suffering because of it. Now you say that Donald Trump saying the injustice that we've seen warrants commutation or pardons. You say that means he's advocating for violence. This is the ultimate problem. Then you cite a press release from Maryland saying, but the right's more violent. There is a distinction between a white supremacist as a right-wing group and a run-of-the-mill Christian conservative who showed up on that day not to protest. Let's talk about Brandon Strzok. He never went in the building. He was on the other side of the building. There was a permitted protest. He walked up the stairs and he was yelling. They put this guy in prison. There is Owen Schroyer, who was at a permitted rally, who was yelling death to communists. They put him in prison and specifically cited his speech. My dude, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's fine. I get it. We try to be polite. We try to be nice. But there are so many young liberals who sit here and say, the corporate press told me that these people are bad and the machine state government has decreed it by pen. So I don't care what crime they committed. I don't care what the jury said. I don't care who was on the jury. Enrique Tarrio, who was not there, should be in prison for 2 decades. Tell me this now. Why is Enrique Tarrio in prison?
Yeah, so they uncovered with him his plot to overthrow the
plot.
Okay, even outside of this Enrique Tarrio guy, hypocritical nature of a lot of liberals when it came to the year of 2020. Look back at all the BLM riots that were happening where police cars were getting burnt, like literally set on fire. Police are getting attacked. All this stuff was justified because of injustice that has been done towards black people and in our nature or in our nation. And it was fine, right? We made excuses for it. They put it in TV shows. There's a show called Grownish where they were sitting there saying, this white girl was saying to her black friends who they're very close, that this is not okay, that they're like looting, that they're rioting and doing all this stuff. And they excused all of that unhinged behavior because of racism. Like, no, that's not okay. And these people were never jailed. Were never incarcerated. People died. A lot of people died within those at those rallies and stuff, or not rallies, at those protests, peaceful protests. But then January 6th happens, and every single person that didn't harm anybody, that didn't attack anyone, that just happened to be there. Where are they? Oh, they've just been in jail for the last 3 years. That's not okay. That is not okay. Absolutely unacceptable.
Enrique Tarrio, is it?
Yeah, and his organization.
What plot? Who's they? Give me some
prosecutors.
Give me some fucking data. Stop squinting at me and saying the prosecutors did a thing. You didn't know. You didn't read it. You didn't read the court papers. All you know is the fascist machine state told you he should be in prison, and you're saying yes to them. Tell me why. Give me the data.
I understand that laws on the books have been there for a long time that I agree with, that if it's proven that you had a plan and you wanted to act on it, then days after.
What's the proof?
The proof is
say the proof.
Forward by prosecutors.
Say it.
Communications between.
What communications? What did he say? What did he do?
Is this serious?
Are you going to tell me why you think Enrique Tarrio should be in prison for 20 years, or are you going to say the government decreed it?
I just explained to you.
So the government said so. Is that it?
It's usually law enforcement, which I guess is a part of the government.
Government said so?
Yep.
Law enforcement
that uncovers evidence of communications, a memo that he crafted and sent to his organization.
Saying what?
That detailed each institution of government that they were going to try to overthrow. Then just days later, his organization is at the Capitol.
I don't think we can even pull up Enrique Tarrio.
I'm not quite sure that there's any evidence of that sort.
Yeah. You know what? I'll say this. The idea that Enrique Tarrio crafted a memo outlining
okay.
or they 3 months, featured witness evidence featured at Tario and co-defense included videos, thousands of messages in encrypted chat groups, as well as a public message on Parler. On or before January 6th, Tario convened a Ministry of Self-Defense to coordinate Proud Boys leadership on January 6th. The chat showed that Chario, stationed in Baltimore, encouraged the Proud Boys as they attacked the Capitol. Let's figure out what that encouragement was. Are they going to actually say in the article? So here's a citation. Proud Boy and 3 other members of the far-right groups were convicted Thursday in a plot to attack the Capitol. A jury in Washington, D.C. found Tario and 3 lieutenants guilty of seditious conspiracy after hearing dozens of witnesses. Jurors cleared a 5th defendant, Dominic Pizzola, on a citizen charge, and a significant milestone of the Justice Department, which is now secured a conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. They will never stop. Okay, that's interesting. Wikipedia asserts that they did this, but there's actually nothing in the news article that actually states that is true. Well, now we got a problem. Let's try this again. Let's try a secondary source. Let's see. There it is. They introduced evidence that Tario discussed with associates a plan to have a large crowd in Washington storm government buildings in a scheme they called 1776 returns, in which the Winter Palace was used as an apparent code for the U.S. Capitol. In a message, he said, make no mistake, we did this, do what must be done, and he directed the Proud Boys to do it again. So the question then becomes, in the bigger picture...
So are you going to at all acknowledge that you just blew up over something that I was absolutely citing fairly?
I don't think you cited it fairly.
I think people should be prosecuted for engaging in plans to overthrow our government. That's kind of
that's a very loose definition of plans to overthrow the government.
Y'all don't seem to be that informed.
Wait, look, respectfully, I cover a lot of protests and riots. A lot of people try to protest and riot and occupy government buildings. Do you think that qualifies as trying to, overthrow your government?
No.
Okay, good. So,
but if they had a plan to take control of the government, which was this one.
If this was an actual plan, this was
plan?
the leastly
That's a
poorly,
plan to take
most
over the government?
ridiculous plan ever. They went after people for having Lego sets of the Capitol. Yeah. I mean, the level of political prosecution here. Would you even admit that there was some level of politics when it came to the prosecution of the J6ers? Would you say politics played a role in this?
Engaging with this as thoughtfully as possible, not trying to grandstand. Of course, often for very justifiable reasons, prosecutors will try to make an example of someone who, for example, tried to overthrow the government to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. I see why.
It's not justifiable to incarcerate people that were just there because of the ones that did do something crazy to make an example of innocent people. That's crazy take, but go ahead.
Such a thing.
Personally, I reject
categorized as sedition
to overthrow the government
would be uniquely bad to prosecutors and political in that this all involved politics, right? And thus,
I'm sorry, I have to say this. The Wikipedia article making those claims is not citing any actual proof that they said those things.
Yeah, again, my position, Tario guy, but my position is the people that were just there, that happened to be there, that were protesting, that like, hey, I think something wrong was done here in 2020. This does not make sense based off how good the economy was prior to obviously the pandemic. This does not make sense based off like how all of this money's in our how everything's so inexpensive, gas, our border secure. Like that brought genuine frustration and confusion and uncertainty on the validity of 2020. And so people protested. Those people do not deserve to be in jail still unless you did something crazy, which that was not majority of the people. And so it's making an example out of them, totally wrong, and I disagree with that completely. And Temple, he was going off. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to comment down your thoughts below. I want to know what you guys are thinking, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.